Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Now, Africans in diaspora continue to play an increasingly influential role in shaping the continent's future, driving investments, building global partnerships, and contributing expertise across sectors. Yet, many experts believe Africa has only begun to tap into the full potential of its global diaspora. On today's edition of Razep Africa, we explore how the continent can move beyond remittances to strategically harness the diaspora network for economic growth, institutional development, and global collaborations. Joining us this morning is Ijeoma Orji, an international relations consultant, global strategist, and diaspora engagement leader known for advancing cross-border partnerships between global markets and emerging economies. She serves as the regional lead for Nigeria within the Global Opportunities Committee of the Atlanta Black Chambers and plays an active role in strengthening economic and leadership ties between Nigeria and the diaspora. She's currently in Nigeria engaging with stakeholders on opportunities for deeper collaboration. And on this edition, we'll be discussing diaspora power, unlocking Africa's global advantage. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me, Joy. It's an honor to be here with you.
Oh, I'm happy you're in Nigeria. How are you finding this beautiful country of ours?
It's amazing. I feel like I'm at home.
You are at home.
Even though I didn't travel to Nigeria until I was an adult, my first time in Nigeria was 2018. And so every time I leave, I feel naked.
I know.
As if I'm missing something.
I know. And I'm happy you're here and you are experiencing firsthand the beauty, not just in weather. I mean, it's hot at the moment, but
yes.
it used to be better. But you're coming from extreme weather, so enjoy.
Yes, thank you.
Right. So let's just go straight to the work that you do. You've been working in the intersection of international relations, business strategies, and when you come here and you see the economic landscape back here in the country and the enormous work that has to be done, yes. Really, how does it make you feel, and how receptive have you found stakeholders here in pushing your goal?
So for me, I'm very solution-based. And so while I see a lot of the gaps and the deficiencies, the goal for me is to find out what solution can I provide, not from a larger perspective, but from as an individual, as myself. And so the feedback that we've received, so I led 6 members of a delegation on behalf of the Global Opportunities Committee for the Atlanta Black Chambers. And so I've received a lot of great feedback from these, the CEOs that we have met with. Fidelity Nigeria, we had a roundtable with them and some SMEs. And they were speaking to the need of having someone like us on the ground that we want to identify. You know, we didn't come here with the belief that we know everything. Was more so for us to study the region, identify what the region has to offer, how can we partner. And so the feedback is great. We signed an MOU with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce Industry as well as the World Trade Abuja Center. And so these initiatives even gives us a better picture to understand that there's a need for the engagement from the diaspora, integrating these strong systems because it will allow to bring stronger partnerships for Nigeria.
Absolutely. I mean, we would not, we would be frank in this conversation, and there are several challenges a lot of investors in diaspora often face, and sometimes they haven't even faced it. Is the perception that comes from Nigeria. Sometimes it's very concerning. You hear concepts like, oh, there's so much corruption, it's volatile, security volatile, and so much there's conflict. How do you have this conversation in such a way that it doesn't affect what you're working so hard to promulgate?
Yes, so for me, I try to identify the realities, but not identify the realities as limitations.
Right.
And so what I've discovered is that, yes, there are some infrastructure deficits that is in the region, but people are still doing business. There are still economic growths that we do see. And so I've been able to, as a CEO of a compliance firm, I recently launched here, ICO Operations and Compliance. We're here to drive better integrated system so that all of the accounts for illegal activities, we can speak to those natures. I'm a certified anti-money laundering specialist, and so it is recognized globally as a designation, but I want to feed in my expertise into the region so that those that are doing these independent and great engagements, that their funds can be accounted for so that American investors can be able to invest, they can invest back in the diaspora. So all of it goes together, I believe.
No, I'm happy you talked about integration. I mean, it's a country where you see a lot of young energies, young people wanting to leave, and that's something that has to be addressed. But most importantly, how do you ensure that there are practical steps that government can take to address these issues as well? It's one thing to say, oh, come invest here, the potentials are here, and indeed they are, but how then are you also working with the Nigerian government or African governments to also strengthen institutions so that these individuals come and their investments are safe?
Yes, so I think it starts with relationships at first, being on the ground to interact. And so one of the most interesting conversations that I've had on this trip was with the Nigeria Economic Summit Group.
Oh, right.
And so we visited the Shokin Center, and so we had a great conversation with the executive director there. And so being that they facilitate legislative reforms, that insight will allow us to be able to understand the nature of the government, but also the private sector. And so I believe that relationship can help us to have a better understanding of how I should engage governmental agencies to be able to provide a solution.
I mean, we've been very used to, remittances. You hear African governments are always telling you, we enjoy so much in remittances. We enjoy billions of dollars in remittances. But you are here pushing for more, integrating the diaspora influence and expertise back here in the country. Again, how has that been? Because for governments that have often sat back and get their diaspora and send money to having their diasporans take it seriously enough. Exactly. Do you see a challenge moving forward in this? Because it will take work. It will take a lot of work as well.
Yes. So I do see challenges, but I do believe that there are enough partners among my network that can speak to those challenges. It won't be easy, but I believe that because we're all solution-based, that how receiving that I've been getting from these other organizations, I believe that bilateral exchange, because while we signed the MOU with the Abuja Chambers or the World Trade, that was a ceremonial aspect, but the real work will take place when I'm back in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I believe that it's going to take a lot of following up, execution, tracking the data as well. But I know it will be a challenge, but I do believe that it's possible to do business from the diaspora into Nigeria, but not just Nigeria, in the continent of Africa.
Right. So having visited here, and again, I'm really happy that you did, because you are relatable to what we're facing here. What would you say is the opportunities for Nigerian entrepreneurs, not just from the diaspora now, Nigerian entrepreneurs, when it comes to global networks, how can they expand? Because we often hear this concerns from African entrepreneurs that says we have the product, but we are not accepted across the world. So that exchange of services and products as well. What are the opportunities for Nigerian entrepreneurs?
Yes, well, speaking to opportunities, I think the biggest one that comes to mind, so being that I serve as the regional lead for Nigeria, within the Atlanta Black Chambers, we offer international membership. So while you may never travel to the U.S. or the diaspora, you are able to engage the U.S. market even from this region. And so we have a very resourceful chamber that allows these young entrepreneurs entrepreneurs to be able to understand the market. Because in order to be global, I always tell people global is a mindset. It's not a location. You have to understand, be coached how to come in, how to get into the U.S. market. And so we have pillars of committees that can speak to these entrepreneurs to let them know, is your product branded just for Nigeria, or is it branded for international market? One thing that my chair, Ricardo Barris, mentioned at these meetings with a lot of the SMEs is that, is your website integrated for diaspora businesses to engage you? Is it integrated for the U.S. market to shop, to be able to have those infrastructures to do business, even if you never travel over to the diaspora?
Absolutely. And what feedback do you get from those entrepreneurs when their eyes are open? Because we are still at a place where you're trying to get them to take seriously their digital footprint.
Yes, the feedback was exceptional. The expressions, I think I enjoyed more because I was able to see like light bulbs going off. On this past Friday, I hosted a free event where all of the delegates were there. I launched my compliance firm, and I brought it to the market free because I wanted them to understand that, yes, we came in this region not for a handout to receive, but to give. And I believe knowledge is so powerful. And so we engaged several young professionals, several SMEs, how they can get into the U.S. market for free. We engaged them on different perspectives, from merging and acquisitions, from how you develop your product even better, to digital presence. And so the feedback was just profound. Most of the commentaries were, thank you for this. This isn't something that we get often. Normally there's a charge. We don't find people receiving to give their contacts, open up, have virtual meetings. I've already scheduled like several meetings. I said we could have another roundtable before I leave back to the U.S. So the feedback is just what we wanted it to be. And it's real time.
Right. And for those who are often thinking, in spite of everything, it would plummet. There's so much that's expected economically in Africa, even though we have that intentional leadership. And yet, what do you say to young people who often would meet you and say, how can I also come to America? I also want to just visit. I remember returning some time ago and be like, you returned?
It's very interesting for me when I always hear the post question, I want to come to America. The feedback is, I always tell them, America is here. You don't always have to travel to be in America. And so I think it's changing the mind to understand that while you may not, we understand what is happening in the administrative office right now. And so to not steer people from engaging the diaspora, I think I kind of give them what is upon them to interact in real time with just engaging with organizations like the Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce.
Right. And then I think this is a good time to have more about what the Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce does basically. I mean, this is good, integrating Africa and the diaspora economically, but beyond that, what's the idea for the chamber?
The idea for the chamber is to drive partnerships, collaborations, but specifically I serve in the Global Opportunities Committee of the Atlanta Black Chambers. And so we are driving partnerships, bilateral relationships, but also the cross-border transactions and trade, international trade. So those are our main pillars that we are looking to do globally. We have a presence in 42 countries, so not just Nigeria. And so we drive these delegation trips on behalf of Go Trade Delegation to ensure that we are understanding the market. But if I just gave a clear answer, the goal for Global Opportunities Committee is to drive bilateral relationships with partners and track transactional engagement as well within the committee.
How has that been where we do not have trusted data? We have not invested in the infrastructures even to have data. So how are you able to track? Government institutions are even struggling to be able to track. How are you able to do that, and what has the challenges been?
So speaking just for the region of Nigeria, this is a fresh on the ground engagement that we are having. And so we will integrate with the systems, how the chamber has already done here, or also how the World Trade Center has done some things. But we want to use the institutional tracking to integrate how we've tracked. Our committee, our chair, Ricardo Barris, is building an ecosystem that will allow us to feed into this system to be able to track the engagements. And so we have a system that can feed into the region. And so while the infrastructure may not be here in Nigeria, it can be in our system to continue to grow this ecosystem. But among just Nigeria, not just Nigeria, even in the other countries that we're in, we've been able to track this through what we call an ecosystem. And so we have a lot of countries that even travel to the States that have already had visas, or some that were approved. So we understand what's happening in the great administrative office right now. And so, but tracking, I will understand the infrastructure is better, but we do have a result-driven ecosystem that does currently track. So we'll find out how to integrate it as time progresses.
You mentioned visa very in passing, but has that impeded this work as well?
It has, to a certain extent, because of course, not being able to meet up for events that were proposed. But the great thing is that we have virtual aspects. So now is a time, if you've never done virtual digital things,
now you have to take it seriously.
You have to take it very serious. And so while presence can never be duplicated, we always like to meet face to face. It's instead of speaking to the essence of not being able to travel, more so how can we still get it done? How can we still get it done? And so the challenges are there.
Absolutely.
But we move.
I know.
Yes.
I mean, I know your work is in America as well. But at the opportunities, do you often look at the people of black descent beyond America and other parts of the country where trade can be vibrant if they only to also understand what it would entail, the proper pathways?
Yes. So you're speaking as far as the chambers?
The chamber.
Yeah, the chambers, we provide that insight because, one, we know there's challenges among us when it comes to trade. And so I think that we do a very good job at being able to execute to other regions when it comes to that and being able to explain the opportunities. Trade fell in my lap. I never thought I was going to get into trade or, even be among it, but it's been in my lap, and so I've been learning to operate in these capacities.
By the way, you're doing a good job. I did a quick research, and you're doing a fantastic job, and I'm so happy seeing a lady, charging this. Often you don't see that in the space, but I must commend you. Well done.
Thank you. And I mean, I'm happy to be in this light. Recently I became an owner of Bar 360, which is a wearable hydration water pack. And so for me, I'm learning the continent of how this product can speak to solutions, providing water for the miners, those in agriculture, and even for sports and tourism as well. But I am looking to integrate that. So that's even new for me. Being in the continent, I've been having several meetings to see how can this product benefit truly in the continent of Africa.
How? Yes. I mean, top of my head, I can already tell you how it can it can benefit. It's beautiful that you are now doing business, so you have first-hand experience on how it goes. So how is the marketing? It's dynamic doing business here. So while the world is in the internet, some of your potential people who patronize you are not necessarily in the internet space just yet.
No.
So you need to literally knock on doors and all that. How are you finding that?
So while I have a social media presence, I transact very, very well in real time. A lot of the engagements that I had is from emails.
Oh, okay.
Some have never heard my voice until we actually landed in Nigeria. And so the feedback from my I'm very thorough on what I say in emails. The goal is to strike some type of intellectual emotions that the person almost says, who is this woman, and how is she coming to me so boldly to request, an official invitation? And so I received a lot of yeses. And so I think while I'm not engaging on social media as much, my engagement with emails and my connections, which is why I believe that relationships are very, very important to steward, because they've opened several doors for me without them even knowing my Instagram, my LinkedIn, or anything else, other than a website of myself. But thank God, if you Google my name, there's some things that will come up.
Absolutely, so. Absolutely. That's a good one right there. But it's time to go for a short break. When we return, my guest right here is deeply involved in leadership development initiatives as well. We would also explore that part. Stay with us. This is RAZEP Africa. We'll still be right back shortly.
Welcome to RAZEP Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on RAZEP Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Welcome back from that. If you're just joining us, we're discussing Diaspora Power, Unlocking Africa's Global Advantage. And with me is Ijeoma Orji, and we've been having this very important conversation on how we can integrate what's going on, especially economically, and ensure that Africa is not left behind. Yes. And again, well done for the work you do. But like I was saying, you are deeply involved in leadership initiatives, yes. And that's one part where Africa can do better, especially for its younger generation. Sometimes I ask people, you can't blame young people that haven't been mentored or mentored yes. properly. So how do you find again, these vibrant young people who are in need, like a drowning person yes. gasping for air, in need of these leadership initiatives that will guide their path?
So for me, there's an important aspect of leadership that I always like to speak to. One of a famous leadership expert had quoted that a true leader impacts even from the grave. And so I'm very big on true time of impacting the youth, right. Because even for me, I didn't necessarily get that even in the diaspora, but grateful to have had wisdom. And so what I've also done in leadership, so Gotney Leadership Center, that's actually based here in Abuja, with the great Dr. Linus Sakuri. So I actually launched a Gotney Atlanta.
Oh,
yes.
Really?
So last year, July, I launched Gotney, the NGO site in Atlanta, Georgia, where we had a stakeholders dinner. And so I wanted to bring what Gotney is doing here on the continent of Africa to the diaspora, but integrate the diaspora model to feed into Africa. And so what do I mean by that? Is that Dr. Linus is doing great things in leadership in Africa, but also in the diaspora, leadership is a very potent thing that we do. And so I developed what is called an Atlanta model with leadership under Gotney. And so we actually tailor down to the age of 5.
5?
Yes, because when you look at the cognitive structure of a 5-year-old, that is where the precious time where you're actually supposed to be instilling leadership in the youth.
They're very perceptive of the time.
Very perceptive. And so I believe if you target the youth younger, it will allow to trickle it up for as they get older. And so we drive the age of 5, enhancing those exercises, repetition, practical exercises. And so that way, even a 5-year-old will be able to mentor even a 13-year-old because they've already been nurtured very young. And so I believe this integration can continue to pillar into the continent of Africa.
Absolutely.
And so being that Gotney has already set a foundation here, I believe what we're doing in the diaspora can speak back into Africa. But even outside of Gotney, I, as an individual, operate in a leadership capacity, pressing out empowerment, not just to inspire, but to get people to change their mind frame of doing things differently. I always tell people, if 500 go to the right, can you be the 2 that go to the left? Yes, and so I want people to understand that you're a leader just as a sibling, just as a student, not with a platform like this or with a microphone in your hand.
So why would you think that it's important at the moment, to build strong institutions that will help these young people? And I'm happy you mentioned that you're trickling it down to 5-year-olds, and you just said it and a light bulb went off, like, aha, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So how can we build those institutions? You mentioned the Atlanta model.
Yes.
It's of course relatable to those in Atlanta. But are there also peculiarities back here in your work in trying to integrate it in both countries?
Yes, and just to clarify for context, I called it the Atlanta model because it was based upon Gotney Atlanta model.
Right.
But that model is actually going to be replicated in the UK, in Canada, in Ghana, as well as Grenada as well.
Do we have a uniform challenge, when it comes to leadership deficit?
We do. But I do believe if we start as the example, we may not be able to fix all of them.
Absolutely.
But if we can fix at least some thousands, then maybe those thousands, I believe, can get to the millions. And so how that Atlanta model can be integrated is because it's not just for Atlanta, it's just for marketing purposes. We use that saying, Atlanta model, but it's a global model. And so I believe we can tailor mentoring the 5-year-olds, even here on the continent. They're just as sharp anywhere, if not more. I'm speaking to all of the natural resources that we have on the continent. Their intellectual abilities can be even more as sharper as, while we think, the diaspora is more engaged because of resources, we have very talented, high intellectual, young entrepreneurs, young children on the continent of Africa.
Very innovative, talented, skilled, and I again, this is a topic that really affects me because I see how untapped they are. On the show the other day, I was talking about how I was driving by the city of Abuja, and you see young children rather, trying to clean the windshield. That's what they can do. And we are watching this happen. These are children who will one day, have to be on their own and with no back, with nothing to fall back on. Because that they have over the years not learned any skill and not learned anything that can sustain them really. So it's a very touchy subject that's dear to my heart. And of course I would like to absolutely collaborate on the work that you do on that moving forward. But what are practical steps that you would say parents watching, in terms of leadership, leaders of thought
Yes.
watching, how can we all put our hands together to see that this is an important, very important thing we should, initiative we should focus on and hammer it and ensure that we raise children that are confident, are leaders, and can, move the entire continent ahead.
Yes. So for me, I do have a foundation here that is ran out of Abuja, and my executive director does a great job. And so our goal is to drive enhanced trainings outside of traditional school. So extra incentives that allows them to understand how they can do other businesses, how they can grow as an entrepreneur. But to answer your question directly, I'm speaking to the parents and those leaders, what would I say to them? I always tell people, while they're not your children, the disadvantages and the things that you see in your continent, what if that young child that you see cleaning the windows could be the next person to change what you continue to complain about every single day? So I tell people, even if you're driving in your car, you're passing these children at the petroleum station, what are you doing to impact just one? Just one. With all of the resource, people will bottle all their resources, to speak about all of the titles they have. Mm-hmm. But if you just placed your titles to the side, can you remember that you were once a young child? Mm-hmm. And the way someone looked at you
and supported you.
And supported you, can you look at the one to help support them to become the next you?
Exactly, and that's one thing, when you talk about leadership, that's another thing we face. You bottle up your resources, it's all about me, you want to be part of the 1% so bad. And you must also, when you look at the Nigerian young people, they are the most resilient, I think, in the world. It doesn't matter what you push to them, they're standing. They're standing. They're standing. They're standing, they're laughing. Yes. It doesn't get to them. They wake up, they do what they have to do. And is that superpowers that can be harnessed?
Yes. Yes, I can wholly agree with you. And I think the resilience is why I challenge parents to challenge the one,
right.
To make that change for our youth, because it's not going to be easy. Mm-hmm. But if we keep speaking to the government, we'll just keep saying the same thing every day.
Right.
We as individuals have a capacity as a private person to make change, that you don't need the government's approval to change a life of 1,000.
Absolutely not. You do not. And
Yes.
it reverberates. One
Yes.
person it would help another community of people. Now, beyond the leadership and the economic integration work that you do, I'm sure you've seen how this affects women back here. This is a conversation. I mean, I lead a community of female journalists, so
Yes.
forgive me, I would always take the conversation there. So how do you feel, when you also see that there are strong, intelligent women back here as well who have legitimate barriers,
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's impeding them from thriving? How does that make you feel? And what strategies? I know your head's all over the place,
Yes.
trying to come up with how to support them.
Yes.
How has your experience been in that?
So I didn't know initially the challenges that women struggle with here on the continent. It was only by hearing some of my mentees that I've mentored that I was hearing these challenges, and I was blown away. I'm like, wow. Yes, I'm like, wow. I said, so you're, all this intelligence, no one can even know about it that you have as a woman. And so what I've done on my part is trying to connect them to the resources that I have that I know will receive them. And so for me, I want to study what these challenges are, because I didn't even know it was so great. And so I'm grateful to even be among you, so you can even help educate me on these challenges, so I can even try to see how to integrate some systems to speak to that. I'm very big on connecting with lobbyists, those that drive these policies, like I was speaking with those legislative reforms, because as a woman, I can't be here as a woman, but not also speak to the woman first. And so that is something that I also want to make sure that I understand. But make sure that I'm at least encouraging the ones that are in my circle first.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the situation in Atlanta at the moment? I mean, I know the gender issue is global, but if you can give us an idea of when you say equality in America, for instance, what does it mean? Because back here, I will tell you, there's child marriages going on.
Yes.
There are religious issues that are impeding women from even accessing education or even doing business. That's how bad it is. We have, I mean, I don't want to. You go on and on, but. In the flip side, from where you coming from, what are the challenges you face when you say women empowerment, women equality?
Well, to speak to the diaspora, I can truly say we have a lot of resources that do speak for women empowerment. We do have inclusion that does give us real-time actual resources. And women are able to do business, women are able to do trade, women are able to operate in a lot of political sectors. And so I haven't experienced those challenges that the continent experiences, but I do believe that Atlanta is a place for women to do any and all things.
Right.
But even the diaspora as a whole, their inclusion is there in real time, and it's not something just written on paper. So I would love to see how to integrate that here. While it may be a challenge that I would need an army of thousands, but I'm ready to take on the task. So those in the diaspora, I need 1,000 women. I need 1,000 women to come help me here on the continent. We have to drive inclusion for women here. I strongly believe that.
Right, exactly. And then I just wanted to still talking about women.
Yes.
Forgive me, I have to go there.
let's address ourselves first.
Exactly. So one of the things we face here sometimes when we talk about women in leadership is a lot of younger women would say we do not have support from those who have push that door and in boardrooms, and in their defense, these are women who have always known to fight like men if they have to succeed, and they've not had to hold anybody's hand because none of theirs was held. They don't know anything better. That's one of the things I have been hammering on, that a woman sitting beside you in the boardroom is not a threat. She can be an ally even. But we don't get that. It's sometimes very hostile. You will see women hostile towards each other. I wanted to ask you if that's what you face as well. And what do you think we can do back here, to change that mindset?
Yes. So for me, I think I lead with the example. And I think once people see that I'm also not a hostile person, because I believe in helping the next woman.
Absolutely.
But speaking to what you're saying that takes place here, I guess I would have to pose the question. I don't know how some may receive it here, but what about yourself as a woman that is empowered, that makes you believe that your resources shouldn't be shared to others in the continent of Africa? Because that would bother me, and so it's bothering me that you even had to pose it to me, because I will really want to challenge these women that are being gatekeepers to understand what about your titles or your platform that makes you want to gatekeep another woman's success. I believe that women are the head of households as far as nurturing. Exactly. And as women, we are to nurture things to grow, to progress, to mobilize. And so what about women? So I want to challenge the women. I guess let me look.
Yes, sure.
The women that are in power. Joy has expressed what is taking place. So for you, I want to know, why is it that you want to keep gates closed for women that are able to nurture and mobilize a continent to do better, to achieve better? Because when you leave, when you die, what impacts will you do? A great leader will impact from the grave. And so I want to challenge you to know that, to ask you, when you die, will you still continue to impact, or will it just die out?
Exactly.
And so if your answer is that it will die, then I challenge you to change your mind frames to begin to open doors for women. But if you're going to impact from the grave, then good job. I commend you. Thank you for doing what you do for the continent of Africa. But if not, I need you to challenge. I need you to encourage the women. Open doors for women, because you cannot be the only one there. Life does happen. Sickness happens, joy. And so I want you to remember that you are human.
Exactly.
And so we all get buried the same way.
Oh, to think you did not plan that speech. That was beautiful. So,
Yes.
well, moving forward
Yes.
now, when you think about the future of Africa and its the diaspora community in the next decade, what excites you most, and what are you looking up to? What are the opportunities that you're like, oh my goodness, this is just
For me, the next few years to come, the diaspora is going to be a funnel into Africa. Because to have stronger partnerships, you have to have stronger systems. And I believe that right now, Africa is, you want to be Africa, you want to do Africa. And I believe these stronger systems will feed into the continent to have stronger partnerships like never before. That even, I believe that even retirement plans that we have for the diaspora can be integrated into the continent of Africa, because you don't see a lot of retirement plans. Most times they work. There's no like the structure of retirements. But I believe for the diaspora and bilateral relationships that there'll be stronger real-time partnerships of global change and global impact from the diaspora, because people are hungry to bring solutions to the continent, very hungry.
But do you get that doubt sometimes, and you know, when you have this conversation?
Yes.
Because over the years, again, what else have we known? You're skeptical about anybody that comes with anything new. So when you have these beautiful conversations and the potentials in it, and see how your eyes lit up with passion, and you get skepticism, how do you feel?
I will have to be honest. Doubt comes. There's times where I'm like, will this happen? Or will this happen? Doubt is not something you can avoid. As human nature, I think that's going to come. Fear will come. But I think strengthening these partnerships with local institutions can give you some credibility of trust. Even in the diaspora, you can deal with incredible people. So just because it's a land of some resources doesn't mean that there are people that are not credible. But to answer your question, doubt will be there always, but it's how do you get ahead of the doubt is how I lead, because economic growth still has to happen. The population is growing, so what are we going to do about it? Yes.
So for young people listening to you right now, and maybe they are in business, maybe they have innovations, maybe they want to get into business, what would be your parting words for them?
Yes. I want to encourage the youth to be your biggest cheerleader, because the reason I want to instill in you that you encourage you, that even if someone is doubting or telling you that what your innovation that you're bringing will not work, I want you to encourage yourself that what you're doing is the best. You are the best, you are bringing change, and that what you are going to be will change generations to come. So I want to even tell you, well done, and I commend all of your efforts that you are doing, not just for Nigeria, but for the continent of Africa. You matter, and you are deserving of change, you are deserving of inclusion.
Thank you so much for being part of the program. I've had such a wonderful time, and I've learned so much also from you. Thank you for being part of this.
Thank you, Joy, for having me. You are amazing.
Thank you. You are amazing as well. That has been Ijeoma Orji, an international relations consultant, global strategist, and diaspora engagement leader. And she's known for so much advancing cross-border partnerships between global markets and emerging economies. We've had this very beautiful conversation talking about the power that we could harness through diaspora. But this is where we end today's edition of RAZEB Africa. Until next time when we come your way, have yourself a wonderful day.
Welcome to RAZEB Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our